In today's video, we are going to be going over the most customizable cars in GTA 5 Online. Now, I did make a video on this in the past, but since then, a lot more vehicles have been released in GTA 5, so we're going to be going over a bunch of them really quickly today. So I hope you go on to enjoy the video. If you do, be sure to smash a massive thumbs up on it and subscribe if you are new to the channel as well. And with that said, I hope you go on to enjoy the video, and without further ado, let's get into it. Starting off with the most customizable car in the game, it's going to be the Dominator ASP with a grand total of 282 different cosmetic upgrades that you could throw on this vehicle. It's a fan favorite from the LS Tuners DLC update. I love it, and I know you guys do as well, and it is hands down the most customizable vehicle in GTA Online. In second place, we have the CALICO GTF with a grand total of 274 different cosmetic upgrades that you could throw on it. If you guys haven't already guessed it, a lot of the LS Tuner vehicles are some of the most customizable vehicles in all of GTA 5 Online, which is awesome. I love that. A lot of these vehicles have some really cool mods, and the CALICO GTF, once again, is another fan favorite vehicle from the LS Tuners DLC update. I love the car. I know you guys do as well, and you can customize the hell out of it. By the way, be sure to check out DOMINATOR. You could purchase games, gaming accessories, and in-game currency for all your favorite games like GTA 5, Forza, and many more. Use code FROLICKS at checkout and get a 10% discount. Next up is the TATLGATER S with a total of 260 different cosmetic upgrades that you could throw on this thing, which is also pretty awesome. It's definitely not one of my favorite vehicles from the most recent update, but it is still pretty awesome and you can really customize it. Next up we have the VECTOR with a total of 257 different cosmetic upgrades you could throw on this thing, which is awesome. It also handles really well. The next most customizable vehicle is going to be the CYPHER with a total of 250 different cosmetic upgrades you could throw on this thing as well. It honestly doesn't look too crazy though. That's one thing I really like about this car. If you were to fully max this thing out and just take the livery off and change the body arches on it, it'll actually look like the car doesn't have too many upgrades on it. But trust me, there is a lot of things you could do to it. Next up is going to be the Tornado Custom with a total of 248 cosmetic upgrades that you could throw on it. Now there's an issue with the Benny's Lowriders. The fact is that most of their upgrades are for the interiors. For example, most of the Lowriders have ornaments available for them, and most of them have about 46 different options just for that alone. So if you're thinking about getting a Lowrider, just remember you're mainly going to be customizing the interior because that's where most of the upgrades actually are. But it's still a pretty nice car. Next up, we have one of my favorite cars, the JESTER RR, with a total of 245 different cosmetic upgrades that you could throw on this beast. I absolutely love it. It handles really well, and it's a great car to race with, especially for beginners. I love the car, and it's highly customizable. Next up is the Annis Euros, with a total of 244 different cosmetic upgrades you could throw on it. It has one less than the JESTER RR. It's pretty awesome. It's definitely not my favorite car in the game, but I am happy that we finally have a 370Z that doesn't have a ton of armor on it. So it's honestly a pretty cool car, and there's a lot of different things you could do to it. Next up, we have the REMUS with a total of 237 different cosmetic upgrades that you could throw on this thing. It's a pretty awesome car, definitely not my favorite, but you can customize the hell out of it. Next up is going to be the PREVION with a total of 230 different cosmetic upgrades you could throw on this thing. Now, I actually really like this car, and it is a ton of fun to drift around with. I know I love it in GTA 5, and I love customizing it as well, and I'm sure you guys will if you decide to buy it. Next up is the ZR350. It has a total of 229 different cosmetic upgrades that you could throw on it. I absolutely love this car, and honestly when it came out I bought like 4 of them, and all of them look completely different because it has a ton of upgrade potential, which I love. Next up is going to be the GROWLER. It has a total of 228 different cosmetic upgrades that you could throw on it, which is awesome. It's a really fun car to drive around, and you can customize it a bunch of different ways. It's honestly pretty freaking awesome. Next up we have the GLENDALE Custom, and it has a total of 227 different cosmetic upgrades that you could throw on it. Once again, it's a lowrider, so most of those upgrades are going to be on the interior, but it's still a pretty cool car. Next up, we have the PRIMO Custom with a total of 227 different cosmetic upgrades that you could throw on it, which is awesome, but it's a lowrider, so most of those upgrades are going to be on the interior, which kind of sucks unless you actually like that. But you can see the outside of the car still looks fairly plain, so you better watch out with some of the lowriders in GTA 5 because sometimes the exteriors just won't won't look as great as the interiors will. Next up is the ELEGY Retro Custom, one of my personal favorite cars in GTA 5, and it has 225 different cosmetic upgrades you could throw on it. I absolutely love this car, and I would highly recommend anybody watching this video, if you don't already own it, go out and buy one right now. I will leave a custom build link down below in the description to show you a really cool way to customize this thing. It's a damn beautiful car, and it is really customizable. Next up is going to be the SABRE Turbo Custom. This car has 225 different cosmetic upgrades on it. Once again, this car is also a lowrider, so most of that stuff is going to be on the interior of the car. Honestly though, you could just buy the regular SABRE Turbo, and honestly the outsides will look practically the exact same. So that's what I tend to do in GTA 5 because I love this car. And I don't really care for the hydraulics, I just like the look of it, but it's pretty awesome and you could still really customize it. Next up, we have the BUCCANEER Custom with a total of 223 different cosmetic upgrades on it. Once again, it's a lowrider, so most of that stuff's on the interior, but it's still a pretty awesome car. Next up is going to be the SLAMVAN Custom with a total of 222 different cosmetic upgrades on it, which is pretty awesome. Take a look at it. It looks pretty damn crazy. After that, we have the PEYOTE Custom, also with 222 different cosmetic upgrades you could put on it. Honestly, not my favorite lowrider in the game, but if you like the PEYOTE, buy the custom version, and you could really customize it. Next up is the VIRGO Custom with a total of 214 different cosmetic upgrades you could put on it. It's a pretty nice, classic lowrider, which I honestly really like the look of. Next up is the CHINO Custom with a total of 210 different cosmetic upgrades, which is awesome. If I had to pick this or the VIRGO, I'd probably pick this, just because personally, I love the car, and you could really customize it. Next up is going to be the FUTO GTX with a total of 207 different cosmetic upgrades. It's another really nice car, and it's also not too expensive, which is pretty great. Next up is the MOONBEAM Custom with a total of 203 different cosmetic upgrades. I actually love this thing because if you open the trunk, you're just going to see a massive shelf of speakers everywhere, which is pretty freaking awesome. Next up is the RT3000 with a total of 201 different cosmetic upgrades you can throw on it. It's definitely not the best car out of all the LS Tuner vehicles, but it is still pretty awesome, and I absolutely love the S2000 in real life, so this car makes me happy. Next up is the COMET S2, which has a total of 200 upgrades on the dot. Definitely one of my favorite cars from the LS Tuners update. I love some of the customizations for it. I'll leave a link down below to one of the custom builds I did previously. Next up is going to be the Warner HKR with a total of 198 different cosmetic upgrades on it. Hands down the worst performing car out of all the LS Tuner vehicles, but it's still some pretty cool customizations. Next up is the Gauntlet Classic Custom with a total of 194 different cosmetic upgrades that you could throw on it. It's a beautiful Daytona Charger, and I absolutely love the car. Next up is the SULTAN RS Classic with a total of 186 different cosmetic upgrades you could throw on it. I honestly love this car. I've done a custom build on it in the past, and it is absolutely amazing. Next up is the DOMINATOR GTT, another fan favorite, and it has 185 different cosmetic upgrades you could throw on it, which is pretty awesome. I honestly love this car, and I know you guys do as well. Next up, we have the Kirin 190Z with a total of 160 different cosmetic upgrades on it. It's not a Benny's vehicle or an LS Tuners vehicle, but it's pretty freaking awesome, and I know a lot of people really love this car. Next up is the COMET Retro Custom. It has a total of 158 different cosmetic upgrades you could throw on it. Another car I really love to drive around in GTA 5, and the upgrades it has are pretty amazing. Next up, we have the ITALI GTB Custom with a total of 145 different cosmetic upgrades that you could throw on it. It's a supercar. I'm not a huge fan of it, but it's one of the most customizable supercars we have in GTA 5. Next up is the Penumbra FF, and it has a grand total of 133 different cosmetic upgrades that you could throw on it, which is pretty awesome. It's a nice car, and when it came out, everybody was super hyped. And finally, we have the Dominator GTX, and it has a total of 114 different cosmetic upgrades that you could throw on it. It's a pretty great car. Not a huge fan of it because I like Challengers a little bit more, but it's still highly customizable, and it's pretty cool. Anyways, those are the most customizable vehicles in GTA 5 Online. As of right now, at least, in October of 2021. Maybe in the near future, we'll see some more vehicles that we can customize even more, but we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully this video helped you guys out if you guys were considering purchasing a vehicle that you really wanted to customize. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will catch you guys in the next video.